Hi everyone, today we're going to be presenting our RRAP on school dropout. My name is Angela Barrera and our group members are Denise Calderon, Elizabeth Vane, Savannah Criado, Linda Medina, and Samantha Rubio. Concerns about the national dropout rate and the young people facing risk has been a long-standing problem that has persisted for decades. Dropping out of school doesn't just affect young people individually, but it also presents a serious national, state, and local problem. In a longitudinal study conducted in 2012 by the National Center for Education Statistics, the results were split up by grade level, ethnicity, and gender. The book states that the results of this study showed that by grade level, there was a higher chance of students dropping out as the grade level increased, with the highest dropout rate at 5.1% for 12th grade and lowest at 2.6% for 9th grade. The results by ethnicity showed that Asian students had the lowest rate of dropout at 1.9%, and the highest rates were for American Indian, Alaskan Native, Black, and Hispanic students at 6.7, 5.5, and 5%. For gender dropout rates, the results showed that across all states, males had a higher dropout rate than females. In a more recent study conducted by National Center for Education in 2018, they used the American Community Survey given to 16 to 24-year-olds in the U.S. These results were divided by ethnicity and gender. They showed that American Indian, Alaskan Natives, Black, and Hispanic students had the highest rate of dropout at 9.5, 6.4, and 8%, and Asian students had the lowest rate of dropout at 1.9%. By gender, males had a higher dropout rate than females across all ethnicities. It is important to note that though these rates are high, the graph from this survey shows that from 2006 to 2018, the rates of dropout have been decreasing. Dropping out of school is a serious problem on multiple levels. Our current industrial economy requires a workforce that has expertise and is technologically skilled. The median income and low skill-based jobs that high school dropouts need are becoming more and more scarce, resulting in a cycle of unemployment and poverty. On average, the average annual income of adults without a high school diploma was $21,000 versus $29,000 of adults who did have their high school diploma. On top of the lack of career opportunity and pay, high school dropouts are also faced with poorer quality of health. Substance abuse, crime, and other high-risk behaviors are often correlated with dropping out of school. Finally, there is a disproportionately high percentage of minorities in prison and on death row who have dropped out of school. Historically, the federal government did not get involved with education policy, and this was left for states to regulate their own local education policies. This was until 2001. When the No Child Left Behind Act became federal law, and this was the first federal law that addressed educational policy in U.S. history. The No Child Left Behind Act required that all schools have yearly K-12 assessments that were used to measure schools' effectiveness. Schools with low scores were deemed not effective and were faced with steep penalties, while schools with high scores were deemed effective and received additional funding. On top of this, there was a federal effort to raise the compulsory attendance age in a hope that this would send a strong message to youth and families of the importance of completing school. However, this was met with a lot of resistance from legislators who didn't think their constituents would accept raising the compulsory attendance age, and concerns were raised that it could cause school overcrowding. Resistance was also met with homeschool advocacy groups, such as the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and said this violated families' freedoms and imposed additional burdens. Other researchers found no correlation between raising compulsory attendance age to high school completion, but what did improve completion rates were programs specifically designed to meet the needs of at-risk students. This is why it is important for everyone involved with the schools, such as researchers, administrators, and educators, to continue to search for intervention and prevention programs to stem the serious problem of school dropout.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and I will be covering problem definition and problem identification within school dropouts. Problem definition. In the text on page 423 is stated the definition of what is school dropouts and the effectiveness of it. One of the common reasons students do not complete high school is because of life interruptions, such as having responsibilities at home, teen girls becoming pregnant, or they have to work to help their family. Another definition is when a student leaving a current step of education without graduating or not completing an ongoing educational program. On to the next slide, please. Problem identification. Problem identifications are lack of parents' involvement, next, low-income families that leads to high rates of students to drop out of school due to having to find a job or taking responsibility at home. Next, single parents families. Within the household, being a single parent can be challenging, which it affects the parents' way of involving within the child's academic performance. Next is low grades in school, not having support from home. Next is absence frequently, such as receiving bad attendance. Next, changing school. This can be an example. For example, students who are in the foster program gets moved a lot. So with changing school, this can be a problem for the child's academic performance. Next is pregnancy. And lastly, we have high responsibility at home. Our next presenter will be Savannah, who will be presenting the risk and costs.
According to Bickel and Bond, the term dropout can be misleading because it implies that school dropout is an event, instead of seeing it as a process, and the student is typically the sole decision maker in this process. By dropping out of school, students risk creating a mindset and environment that tend to be associated with crime, substance abuse, and other delinquent high-risk behaviors. Therefore, those who drop out are 25 years and older are more prone to have health issues than those who stay in school. Living in a single parent household can also put the child at risk for dropping out as well, especially if the parent does not have an educational background, because they will not necessarily stress enough how important getting education and finishing school really is. Lastly, homelessness or constant moving of homes can also influence a student to drop out of school because not having a stable home can be stressful. On the next slide, I will be discussing factors that cause school. Typically, there is no set or solid reason as to what causes a student to drop out. The most common reasons for students dropping out of school are seen as life interruptions, such as getting a job, full-time or part-time, becoming a parent, or even having more responsibilities at home. Other factors that are not as common as life interruptions are becoming less motivated to put in the work, nonetheless stay in the school environment. Poor academic performance, meaning poor grades, no engagement in extracurricular activities, or even truancy, meaning consecutive days or often occurrences of not showing up to school. There are even reasons for dropping out influenced by the environment that surrounds the student. For example, the student may or may not have a sibling or a parent that has also dropped out of school, or even had administrators push a student out of school because they're no longer wanting to deal with the struggling student. Additionally, some students don't necessarily drop out, they fade out, meaning after a period of time they mentally check out of school. Sometimes the students are even pulled out because of important life demands like becoming a parent. In the next slides, Samantha will be discussing prevention and intervention.
Hello. So yes, I will be continuing on with prevention. So in the text, it did state how school counselors are a big part of prevention because students, school counselors advocate for academic success for students, and through developing a way to address their diverse needs for a variety of students, especially those who are put in increased risk for dropping out. They also address individual needs for students who are at risk. They may use different ecological approaches to enable them to address the systemic issues that are involved when a student is at risk for dropping out of school. They may use tools when it is necessary to refer a student outside to counseling agencies within the community that continue working with them and offer support to decrease the risk of them dropping out. It is essential that schools counselors consult and work collaboratively with stakeholders within the community. They create an individual tailored plans to help students navigate their way through school and prevent at least reduce the number of students who drop out. It also mentioned how family is a big part of prevention. A student's family systems may contain stressors that could possibly impact them long term. It could be anything from financial situations to difficult family issues. However, it is important for parents to provide consistency in daily routine, like a set time for homework, bedtime, or free time. Also using a way of positive encouragement to recognize when a child's effort is when a child effort is put into completing a task. So once they receive that, they become a little more self-motivated to complete tasks on their own. Also, open communication with school. What this means is keep the lines of communication with the school open, and that parents are involved with the child's academics, allowing for regular communications with teachers, the school, and the counselors. It can prevent a student from becoming too behind on work and help address behavioral issues at the start. Seeking support. What it meant by this in the text is that it refers to having services provided by the community that are not always well known. Families may not know how to find financial help or housing if they have a housing crisis, but the schools can provide these resources to help them, but they must go out and seek them. Also, real world experience. Through this, it means that parents are to be exposing their child to real world experiences that involve academics as well, so they understand the importance of it. Importance of education. Continuing on that note, parents usually could help through this by stressing the importance of education, looking at the long-term benefits, understanding that income levels of somebody who does not have high school education versus someone who does not. Also stressing how long-term benefits of staying in school is more important versus getting a job at the moment, no matter how hard their financial situation may be. Knowing and advocating for your child. What this means is understanding what your right is as a parent, and understanding what you can do in regards to your child's academic, like understanding you have the right to request meetings, what IEP is, which is an individual education plan, and working closely with teachers and administration to do what's best for your child's education. Also, attendance tracking. In the school perspective, why is this important is because attendance tracking can help hold students accountable and have a sense that someone still cares about them and knows and wants to know where they're at and why they're not at school. And then it also gives an opportunity for counselors to see who is frequently absent and late. Class size. When it comes to class size, creating a sense of community in schools is much easier when there's a lower student-teacher ratio. In fact, with schools with lower teacher-to-school ratio, students are more likely to graduate than ones in more students to compare to teacher ratio. And also parent involvement. Parent involvement is one of the most primary predictors for when a student will drop out. So through the school providing opportunities for workshops, volunteer works, parent resource centers, it gives a sense of community and allows parents to further engage in the child's education. When the school allows more opportunities for parents to be involved in their students' academics, it really helps. When it comes to the community, collaboration between school and community counselors, they must all work together to support students who are at risk of dropping out through first getting a release of information so they can share ongoing issues with one another. For example, a community counselor collaborating with a school counselor so they can address the issues and work together smoothly. It is essential for them to network and meet a student's unique needs. In the following slide, I will be discussing intervention. Intervention. In terms of intervention, the text stated, in using an ecological approach, it would focus more on this child or student's perception of their own environment and what they may perceive from the interactions within it. A counselor would work closely with them and build a positive relationship to understand strengths and include parental support, relationships with their teachers, and if they're willing to work hard for something of interest to them. Then being able to assess the microsystems and make a student aware of potential barriers that may impose on their academic success, and identify the macrosystems that may affect their life experiences and how they perceive. Mesosystems include the interactions between microsystems and the individual's environment. So the interactions between the students, community, and school are part of the mesosystems, and through communication, the parents can allow for valuable input to be added and the best way to approach to support them. When it comes to intervention and school counselors, it can play a big role within the administration to meet the students' needs. For example, school counselors and administration may determine that a ratio of students to teachers is significantly high, thus affecting the way that they are being supported, and may determine that a better way of supporting them is to have less students and more teachers, and have evidence to support this. And it may be more beneficial to take into account other factors such as diversity. In terms of community, counselors tend to advocate for schools and students and promote how valuable it is to have financial and other resources within the community to support students and families, and also have the ability to have referrals and collaborate with other resources. So counselors can encourage school community collaboration by providing students with direct access to community business leaders. This task can be accomplished through activities such as inviting a professional from the community to talk to students about political issues or career opportunities within the community, thus exposing them to opportunities within the community. In terms of adaptations, it means that our society has become increasingly diverse, and we must recognize that in terms of the school systems. School can respond to this reality of pluralistic society by developing a curriculum that is more inclusive to minorities and promotes sensitivity within the schools. These types of interventions would not only help minority students, but also be benefit to all students by promoting tolerance for differences. In the following slide, we will be discussing preventing school dropout and what you may need to know in a video.
For the video portion, I have selected a video made by the Institute of Education Sciences. The video is titled Preventing School Dropout, What You Need to Know. The Institute of Education Sciences based their research and statistics on the United States Department of Education. Their mission is to find scientific evidence on education practices and policies, to provide insightful education to the public. The video discusses how to prevent school dropout, focusing on the school setting, and provides valuable information directed towards parents and school faculty.
Nearly 1 in 5 high school students will not graduate from high school in 4 years. How can we prevent this? How can we make sure that all students graduate on time? Well, you should know that many educators have systems in place to make sure that your student succeeds. They can use strategies to support your student, and together we can create a partnership to prevent students from dropping out. Here are some more facts for you. Students may show signs of being off track to graduate from high school as early as middle school. 6th graders who fail math or reading classes or attend school less than 80% of the time have only a 10 to 20% chance of graduating on time. Of course, high school is also an important time to make sure students are on track. Students fail freshman year more than any other high school grade. Students that receive more than one F in a core subject, such as English, math, science, and social studies, are considered off track for graduating high school on time. High school dropouts earn nearly $8,000 less per year than someone with a diploma. What do these facts tell us? We must put the right supports in place to make sure that students are on track in middle and high school so they can be successful and graduate on time. So, what can we do to make sure our students succeed? We can use early warning systems. Early warning systems are systems that educators use to identify students who are at risk of dropping out. A dedicated team of educators manage these systems. Members of the team can include teachers, counselors, principals, and district staff. Early warning systems can use attendance, behavior, and grades to determine if students are on or off track. Data used in these systems are kept in a secure location that only appropriate people, such as teachers and principals, have access to. The data can be shared with you to let you know whether your student is on track for graduation. Educators can use this data to determine what supports students need to get back on track. This effort to get students back on track is called dropout prevention. One example of dropout prevention support is Check and Connect. Check and Connect is a support program for students who are disengaged from school. Trained mentors build trusting relationships with students and monitor their attendance, behavior, and grades. They then respond with personalized supports to help students be successful in school. Ask your student's teacher or school staff about dropout prevention and early warning systems so you can make sure that your student succeeds on graduation day and beyond.
During the video, we noticed there is a large focus on schools' intervention, working with parents and youth to make sure the youth graduates in 4 years. As mentioned in the book, it is important that schools close gaps with the community the school is a part of. There is also an importance of school faculty working with parents and keeping them updated on their children's academic progress, and to give valuable tips to keep students interested in their education. The purpose of the video is to express the importance of early warning systems and to lower the percentage of youth dropouts, and expose the viewers to how early systems work. For the article portion of our presentation, we chose Why Do Students Drop Out? Turning Points and Long-Term Experiences. This article can be found in the Journal of Educational Research on pages 270 to 282. So what is the population of the study? The population of the study included people who have dropped out of high school ages ranging from 18 to 25. The method used to collect data was through online surveys after collection of samples from the general population being studied. So why is this study important? What does it give to this field of research? Being able to understand how individual, relational, and school risk factors affect youth in completing their education can assist in making successful programs and interventions to keep youth on track for graduating. In turn, it also lowers the percentage of youth who have dropped out of high school. In this study, the authors look in depth at the factors that influence students to drop out of school. Their theoretical framework draws from the bioecological system since they examine what roles parents, peers, and the school environment have in a youth's choice to drop out. This can also be known as a mesosystem of an individual, as it does include peers and the school environment. The research also referenced the push-pull perspective and stress process life course. The push-pull perspective highlights various risk factors that may pull youth out of school and the risk factors that may push youth out of school. The inclusion of the stress process life course approach is used to understand the need for researchers to examine all the stressors in different ecologies of a youth's life to know why they chose to leave school early. The researchers have two specific research questions they are trying to answer. The first is, what are the turning points for dropout that individuals, youth themselves, identify? Dropouts involved in the study commonly said the turning point was a lack of school engagement and environment. This category can include course failure, boredom, not seeing the relevance of schooling, and no one caring if the youth attends. Out of the 65 subcategories involved in the study, the most common answer was, I was failing too many classes. The second research question asked, what if there were any differences in individuals' dropout turning point by profiles of past experiences? Using a chi-square, they found no significant relationship between profile membership and categorical turning point. The researchers used these findings to conclude that in-school programming should improve school climate and make schools a more welcoming place for students to continue to attend. In the end, they came up with a two-pronged approach to dropout prevention. The first prong involved a continued investment and refinement of early warning indicators. Data from early warning indicator systems is not enough to prevent youth from dropping out of school. Having a network of adults who can rely on this information to assist students is a necessity. It is also important to change and refine early warning indicators along with the changing generations to better assist new youth who may be at risk of dropping out for new problems. The second prong is having a network of caring and trained adults benefit the youth by building relationships with the youth, troubled or not. Allowing trained adults to be aware of short-term stressors not easily captured by early warning systems only benefits the school and the youth. The second prong may also include older students' mentorship programs and assemblies with paid professionals to prevent youth dropout. Presenting our final slide on a local group in Fresno is Linda.
I'm going to be talking about Workforce Connection. Workforce Connection is located in Fresno, California. They have two locations, which I have listed below. I have also put their phone number down there in case anybody wants it. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. They serve young adults from the ages of 14 through 24, which means they are helping out before potentially being a dropout and after, if they did decide to drop out. Workforce Connection provides services for young adults currently enrolled in school and having trouble. They also help those who have already dropped out of school to achieve their GED and enter advanced training. Some of the services that they provide are tutoring, study skills training, evidence-based dropout prevention, and dropout recovery services. They also have occupational skill training, adult mentoring, comprehensive guidance and counseling, and so much more. Workforce Connection would be secondary and tertiary prevention because they help the youth that are already having trouble or at risk of dropping out. And they also help after the fact that they have already dropped out. Workforce Connection is taking a systematic approach where they continuously help develop goals and objectives to help the youth be better educated and for them to have a better future. Workforce Connection connects to a couple of Bronfman Brenner's biological theory systems. For example, the microsystem, which is where they support the youth with school tutoring and studying skills and keeping them engaged in their education. Another one would be the ecosystem, because they help guide them in order to receive a higher education and get a better job. These are very important approaches because they are helping the youth develop more interest in school and their education. This is lowering the risk of dropping out. If they are already dropouts, this organization helps them achieve a GED and then continue on to their higher education. They have counselors that guide them and keep them accountable. All this will help not only the youth, but in the long run, it'll help the nation by making them more productive people of society that have jobs and pay taxes. So that means hopefully less homelessness. And yeah, so if you or anybody you know can benefit of this organization, please feel free to take the address and phone number and give them a call.